two strikers left. I went strictly five. And I
Oh,
have the
really?
stats to it. Yeah, I went
Okay.
strict five.
I went
No
for 11.
alternatives.
Okay.
I
So
have no
we'll break the
alternatives.
difference there. Two strikers. So I might go through, I might cover the two, because I have two strikers and I have two attacking midfielders. So I might just go into my attacking midfielders if you like.
Well, I have an attacking midfielder / striker. Yeah, you go first.
So go your name first, because I think I know who it is.
Wayne Rooney.
Rooney?
Third top scorer in the league ever, or second top scorer. It's 559 games, 253 goals, 5 league titles, FA Cup, League Cups. Once Player of the Year, twice Young Player of the Year, and again all-time top scorer for club and country. Just purely based on stats, it's very hard to look past him.
His statistical record is definitely up there, and he started very young, and he's played for 2 clubs. I always remember because games here are late at night. So when I remember when I was in university, I used to have a job stacking shelves in the supermarket. And it's like night fill. So I would come home on Saturday night and just watch the rest of the EPL game before I got on with my night. And I remember watching him come on in that game against Arsenal and scoring that goal in the last minute as he was a 16 at the time. He was just about to turn 17. Yeah. I remember thinking that kid's got something special about him. I actually thought he was 25 when he came on. I had no idea who he was. He looked 25 and he was 16. I'm gonna just hold my judgment on that, depending on others. I don't think that he was able to elevate a team the way that some of the others were. I don't think that he definitely was very selfless, and he got the best out of some of the players. Like guys like Ronaldo went to another level with him there, and Tevez as well played his best football alongside him. I'm happy to put him in, but I might just wait for some other names first and just see if we get it into the 11 or not. But yeah, definitely, like statistically, I think that his record and his numbers are not really appreciated as much as some of the other footballers. It's kind of almost taken for granted in a sense.
Yeah. I think he's maybe the best baller England's ever had. I think he could just do it all.
He's up there with like Gascoigne. Like he reminds me, he's got that similarity to from my time watching the game, because obviously Gascoigne's probably a little bit before your time.
Yeah, I never saw
those two, and maybe Glenn Hoddle, who's a bit more of a defensive player, like a sweeper, defensive midfielder type. But those guys, they were proper footballers. And I'll put Scholes in that category as well. But just in terms of, when you say ball, I'm talking like street play. He's got that aggression that you'd see from someone playing on the street. You know what I mean? Like you almost feel like he could play on the street anywhere in the world with anyone else. Yeah.
So your next player?
I've gone for Mr. Consistency. I've gone for Ryan Giggs. I think just his longevity, I think is worth something. It's funny because you associate him with exciting moments like the FA Cup goal in '99 against Arsenal. Like you associate him with that, but he only scored 4 goals that particular season, and it's something that you don't remember when you remember.
I think we talked about that. Yeah, he's stats. He's not much of a stats man.
I read somewhere Ferguson went up to him and Beckham before that game and said, "We need something out of you two," and they both scored in that game.
Which game was this, sorry?
At that FA Cup semi-final replay.
Oh yeah.
Like the team was, because the team had just played out 0-0 draw in the first semi-final. And Ferguson had to rotate because of the replay, and he just went up to Beckham and Giggs just quietly to each of them and said, "We're going to need a bit more from both of you," and they both delivered on that game. It's just his man management's incredible. I just think that the longevity and the fact that, because there are players like guys like Speed and Barry who played for a long time, but to play that long for a team that was always at the top and to be an important part of those teams, I don't think that he's worth just. If you want to push it back, I'll accept that. But I'm happy to put his name up just because I think, and the way he evolved as a footballer.
I think he was
older.
It's hard to say no just based on the fact that he's won, I think 11 of the he's won all the 15 that Ferguson has won. Yeah, sorry, I don't know why I got 11 from.
I think he's the only one that was there for all of them.
Yeah, he was definitely. He was there with the season Van Persie, and then 2 seasons later the next season he became player manager.
And I get it because
it's hard to argue, but
yeah, because even when he got his Player of the Year award, it was kind of like, well, there's no standout candidate, so who's the guy with the long service that you give it to? And it was
2008, 2009.
I do think to play that level for that long is worth a mention. We talk about consistency versus impact. His consistency is right up there, but he's probably more of a, like, again, probably like a Gary Neville type that got the most of his ability as opposed to being someone who was high impact for a shorter period of time. Whereas his style was quite, his playing style as a winger, you would expect him to be the other type of player, that high impact type of player, but
he was athletic, like in his early years, especially until he's probably mid-20s. He was athletic in a time the Premier League wasn't athletic.
Yeah.
So that kind of coasted him through his early years. And I think he got figured out a little bit later on. When credit to him, he did change his game and he became more of like a number 6, like a Pirlo kind of, attempted to be kind of a Pirlo kind of style.
Yeah, he kind of tucked in a bit on the left flank and played, let Chris ever overlap and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely one of the best who ever did it, but immediate Hall of Fame, I don't know. Not for me. Who's next for you?
One name I'm going to put up, purely based on his impact. I think his last 3 seasons were incredible, was Ronaldo. I know it was only 6 seasons, and if you include his Real Madrid record, he gets in, but we're not. This is an EPL Hall of Fame, not a Football Hall of Fame. But I think I think he was the main catalyst, I think, for Ferguson grabbing that initiative again. Ferguson had won the league in 2002, and then
he was going to retire like a year
before. And then
before.
Chelsea had overtaken, and there was questions about whether Ferguson could go on, but he saw Ronaldo in a friendly, and the place said, you should sign him.
Yeah.
And he backed Ronaldo in. He even, when Ronaldo and Nistelrooy had their fisticuffs, he sold Van Nistelrooy. He said, Ronaldo, this is on you now.
Yeah.
And the way that he came and had that impact, and I think he changed the course of Premier League history. That Chelsea team looked invincible at that point. Like they won the league. They won the first season by 12 points. They'd won the second season by 9 points, but they'd rested all their players for the last 3 games because of the World Cup in 2006. So I just think he obviously it was a short time, but a good time. And I'm putting his name up purely because of the impact. There's a certain statistics one can pull out, and obviously the statistics went to another level at Madrid. But just in terms of the way that he was a little like Cantona in the way that he shaped that football club in that particular era. And I honestly think the club hasn't recovered from him leaving.
No. Yeah, look, he had, how many years was it? 03 to 09, 6 years, 3 Premier League titles, the Champions League, an FA Cup, 2 League Cups, I think. Scored about 100, close to 100 goals. Yeah. Very close to it, if not a bit more. I do like the point that he said he kind of rejuvenated Fergie to kind of want more again. And kind of led what I think is probably the best Premier League side ever in 08-09, the most exciting Premier League side.
Yeah.
In terms of number of goals scored by those front 3 was something like 80 something goals between those front 3.
That was ridiculous.
Like yeah, it's like people, this Mane, Salah, and Firmino business is nothing compared to what they did.
Yeah. I would take Rooney, Tevez, and Ronaldo over.
And also again in terms of an attacking player, pure baller. Absolute baller. So like hard to disagree. I'd include him. I didn't include him in mine because I had someone else.
Well, you had 5, right? So
I had 5. I have someone else. 1 more to go for me, which I'll say next. But
So go ahead.
Thierry Henry.
Okay. Why?
2 league titles, 230 goals for the club. Consistently played over 8 years, and then he came back 3 years later and scored that goal against Leeds. Do you remember that goal? He came on at the Emirates, and he was man of the match by votes before he even came on. Because you do the phone voting. So
they talked about Michael Jordan before. Michael Jordan, his second season in the NBA, he got injured after about 5 or 6 games.
Yeah.
He still got voted onto the All-Star team.
Yeah, unbelievable.
In his second season, like how much hype was there around the man? Yeah.
I think a market player like Thierry Henry or Ronaldo, or at the minute would be Mane. Is you hate them when they're playing, and I hated Thierry Henry. I remember like when you played Arsenal, you're like, oh fuck's sake, it's going to be 3-0 again. It's going to be 3-0 again.
The one non-United player I was genuinely scared of was Thierry Henry.
And remember that goal?
And he had that swagger, that French swag, that stereotypical French manner. Like I'm better than you. He wasn't an arrogant man, but he played like an arrogant footballer.
Couple of goals I want to mention is the one against United when his Dennis Owens on his back, he flicks it up. puts it over to Fabian Barthez. I think everyone knows that one.
Mm-hmm.
Another one he scored was against Blackburn.
I was going to mention that. Oh, yeah.
You're going to mention that.
I
An
know
absolute
with
thing of
Fabregas,
beauty. Right? Fabregas just touches it. Fabregas, by the way, special mention for centre mid. We can come back to it or not, but yeah. And he just belts it for his fucking life and just puts it in the top corner.
It like goes into the roof of the net.
And it looks like,
it doesn't hit the back of the net. It hits the roof of the net. Yeah.
I didn't. Well, okay. I didn't see. I mean, it's just the way he hits it. It looked like a tap, like a little flick of the ankle, like the way Yaya Toure does. Anyway, Thierry Henry. That's my last player.
Yeah.
I know you got a few more. We can definitely run through.
I only have one more. I only have one more name.
I just want to say, I think Thierry Henry for me not only defined an Arsenal era of the Invincibles, but defined a Premier League era for about 5 years. Was the man, even though he only won 2 out of 9 years. I mean, he probably was runner-up a couple of times. I wouldn't know, but it's a shame he never reached the heights with his first love in Arsenal. Like, he should have won the Champions League as well. But yeah,
in 04 and 06, like people forget 04. They were the Invincibles. They got knocked out in the quarterfinals by Chelsea. So if they lost,
Chelsea got knocked out by Monaco. Yeah. And
the Chelsea got knocked out by Monaco. I reckon they could have beaten Monaco, and I reckon they could have beaten Porto if they got through. That year was a bit of a loss, and that was the year they're Invincibles in the league. So, I'm gonna make I'm not nominating him, but I thought make a mention of Didier Drogba. I thought that he was a real talisman for that team, for Chelsea. I thought he's just worth mentioning. I'm not nominating him, but incredible footballer, and a bit like Henry. Like, they came from the French league. They both had big question marks over them. Henry scored, I think, 2 goals in his first 2 games, and they didn't score for 6 months. And everybody's like, "Oh, he's a winger. You can't play him as a centre forward." What are you talking about? And he defined he was a prototype to the modern day inside forward. That role that Messi does for Madrid. If you look at Salah there as well for Liverpool, that role of cutting in and turning in and coming at goals, that was, he was the prototype for that. And if you I read his autobiography once, like, and his father said, "Oh, he did that since he was 7 and playing for Monaco on the 7s. You just start on the left and just run in, like he's that combination down the left with Perez and Cole was just
because I guess
legendary.
I guess the league in the 90s, I guess, was right-footed, right side, left-footed, left side. It was in a box, and obviously it's so typical of someone like Henry to kind of break that box and go like, I do what I want, Very much like a Cantona. Who else would be in that mold? Drogba as well, I guess. So Ronaldo, these kind of mavericks who don't go by the rules, So yeah, Drogba, yeah, man. Like, another player I hated. Oh my God, just
he was incredibly strong, but also very soft at the same time. Like, you blow on him and he'd fall over, but then he could drive through. It's not a Premier League goal, but I remember the goal he scored. We were watching it together, the 2012 Champions League final, where Bayern had scored fairly late and Chelsea needed to get the equaliser. Just the way you could see it from the moment it was kicked, and he jumps up in the air at the near post for the corner, and it felt like either slow motion or like he hung in the air for like a minute and a half and just bang, and you just knew as soon as he was jumping in the air, you knew that he was going to score that goal.
It's very curious because he had a Roy Keane effect on a team, but it's kind of unique for a striker to do that, and he did it.
I've seen games where he's gone and played centre back. At times, like, there was a couple of games where there were injuries, and he just would run back to play centre back, just to help the team out. Like, he was quite selfless as well.
I kind of think, I wouldn't say he's underappreciated, but I think people took him for granted. People took for granted how good he was.
A little bit of a pantomime villain, Drogba, and he didn't help himself with sort of the diving and things. He's probably the biggest man to ever played in the Premier League. Like, he just looked so strong, but would go down a little easily. So that
can we draw comparisons with a Floyd Mayweather, Drogba? Kind of has that vibe. Floyd Mayweather? Excellent at what they do, but just a bit of while they were active.
And playing in a Mourinho team wouldn't help that impression either.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. Oh, it just brings back so many memories talking about all these players.
One other guy I was going to mention, I think.
Yeah, sorry, go on.
The Premier League record goal scorer, Alan Shearer.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So he's the last name I was going to put up. I think it was 260 goals at the end. To have the record that he had for the length of time, like, if you look at the best strikers in the league, so Henry had something like, it was 0.69 goals per game or per 90 minutes. So he's well above, with another name that I'm going to mention a bit later. because he's a current player. But Shearer is, I think, just he had something at 0.48. So it sounds a bit less, but Shearer played his whole career in the Premier League, whereas Henry played his best years at Arsenal. He was obviously at Monaco. He was at Barcelona. He went to America. Shearer played his whole career in the Premier League. So when he was young, it was Henry was just kind of his best years. So that it's a big differential, but you can explain it with that. But the way that Shearer has lifted multiple clubs, he was Mr. Blackburn, he was Mr. Newcastle. He could score goals for fun, and the way he carried himself on the field, I think he was an inspiration to many people as well. As much as we talked about Terry being that archetypal centre back, Shearer was the archetypal English centre forward. He lost a bit of pace as he got older, but he when he was young and he was quick, he was really, really good.
And I think to that point, I think he will be the first inductee. As much as he's our last one here, I think they will put him in first. I
do think there's a slight, obviously for obvious reasons, there's a slight English bias. So I'd love to see. I'd love to see someone like a Keane, for example, be the first name, but it's going to be someone English. So I think, because I mentioned to you before, when Australia did a Cricket Hall of Fame, there's 11 players in the cricket team, so they announced 11 names. So that was the premise for this video, to have 11 footballers announced. But yeah, if they announce only one, I believe that it would be Alan Shearer. Yeah, and never got into trouble away from football as well. Like, it was just a role model for people around him. Even when you see True Geordie, the way that he holds Shearer in such high regard, I've not seen that in, like, I don't see Man United fans talking about a United player, or Arsenal fans talking about an Arsenal player the way that he talks about Alan Shearer.
Well, I think, like, his name is the True Geordie, the guy, Brian Davis. He says that Shearer is their Premier League trophy. Like, we never won one, so Shearer is our trophy. That's what he says.
And he was a world record transfer signing at one point in his career for Newcastle.
I wanted to say, he was definitely meant to come to United. Like, there was huge momentum for him going to United after Blackburn. Or maybe it was before Blackburn. Maybe it was from Southampton. I can't remember.
They had Cantona and Cole. Maybe he would have replaced Cantona. That 97. Because they got Sheringham at that point. Oh
yeah, because Cantona left and they got Sheringham. That's right. I've seen that letter that Ferguson wrote to Cantona. So yeah, they got Sheringham instead, which, was a decent player in himself. It was kind of a number 10, like a false 10 kind of guy. Sheringham was. Do you have any more?
No, that's thoughts? It. So that's 12. So
every club needs a 12th man.
So I'll go. I think that there's some that are obvious ones. So I'll name the obvious ones first. I think Terry, Ferdinand, and company. I think Keane, Scholes, Gerrard. So that's 6. 9 would be Ronaldo, Shearer, Henry. So that's 9. So we're basically going with 2 of Giggs, Vieira, and Schmeichel.
What about them?
So we need to exclude one of them. So we've got 9 players, and we need to pick 2 of Vieira, Giggs, and Schmeichel.
I didn't pick a keeper, so Schmeichel goes in there. I know we don't go in bad positions, but Schmeichel definitely, again, defined a goalkeeping position that wasn't. It was immense. I think a lot of keepers of your age, of your kind of
I had his shirt. I got it sent over from England. It was the first time my father ever bought anything off the internet. But if you watch me, we went to the same high school. So when I was playing there, I had the blue shirt with the big green sleeves.
There you go.
And people are like, where'd you get that from? I was like, oh, it's the Schmeichel. It was £7. But I remember my father was quite terrified buying it off the internet with a credit card. I was like, I really wanted it. It was the first thing I ever bought off the internet. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
And Giggs. I pick Giggs. I think
I would pick Giggs over Vieira as well. Yeah. That British vibe does come in a bit, but
in terms of who's a better baller, I think Vieira was definitely a better player.
Oh, sorry, one more we forgot. Sorry, was Wayne Rooney as well. So it might come down to Rooney versus Giggs for the final spot.
Again, Giggs. You have to pick Giggs.
Yeah.
Again, these are real tough decisions, but I guess I'd go Giggs. What about you?
Yeah, I lean to Giggs as well. I just think that maybe Giggs just lucky to play with better players, but you can only judge a player by the career that he had. I just felt Rooney just wasn't. He was a really good Robin. He just wasn't quite Batman. I just don't think he was. I think that's just the one mark on him. Whereas not that Giggs ever carried a team by himself, but you felt Giggs was making big contributions to big moments, like the FA Cup semi-final goal, and there were, he was able to contribute in big moments where Rooney didn't quite have those big moments. I think that's
Yeah, if you look at some big assists he did, big goals he did, there was the West Ham in 2008 where it was a big game. I remember that was a big game. His pass to Michael Owen for 4-3 Man City. His pass to Kiko Macheda when they beat Aston Villa. He's been there for big moments, and so has Rooney. So if you had to compare someone who's
Rooney
done it over
obviously
20,
had what people call the best goal in Premier League history, although his teammates always tease him for shitting it, but yeah.
Yeah. If you
Best
had to
shin, they
compare
always say it's the best shin in Premier League history.
yeah, exactly. So if you compare big moments over Rooney's career and Giggs' career, like you pick the guy who played 10 years more in the Premier League, So it's not hard to, it's not hard. You're just kind of thinking about who's the better baller. Obviously, Wayne Rooney, but longevity, Giggs.
Yeah. So Rooney, Vieira probably on the cusp, but we've got 11 there. One guy I just wanted to mention, just because he's just finished, is David Silva. I think he'll eventually, at some point, I think he will get in there. Just the guys around him. I remember, I always remember this, that they had a team where, this is Neville and Carragher doing a segment on Monday Night Football where one of them had a British 11 and one of them had it was basically, British all-time 11 and then an international all-time 11. And I think Gary Neville did the all-time one. And then the first thing Jamie Carragher did was he took someone off, I forgot who it was, and just put David Silva, said, you've got to put Silva in just for his quality. Yeah. Like Jamie Carragher was just so emphatic, he just did it, was so emphatic about it. Slight of frame, but incredible skills, reading of the game. He looked like a temperamental winger when he came, but he just developed so much as a footballer, ended up playing in that sort of 3-8, Iniesta type role.
Iniesta would be the kind of comparison. He unbelievable, man. I think we've watched so many games with him together, and he never lost the ball. Literally, it's like fucking glued to his feet. It's incredible.
And for a player in his position as well to do that, you know what I mean? Like it's easy for a centre back to pass it to his fullback all the game and have 100% completion rate.
And with Premier League physicality, someone coming from Valencia, of a team of very slight players, of a kind of a less physical league. I mean, again,
he probably helped change that perception, because 20 years ago, Premier League was all about, strikers like Shearer and Drogba, midfielders like Roy Keane and Patrick Vieira, whereas he's changed it now where technical ability is so much emphasized, more to the point where goalkeepers are getting dropped and sold from clubs because they haven't got the technical ability, So he was part of that revolution.
Yeah, and I think in like 5 to 10 years' time, you're going to have you're going to have era 11s, so it's going to be maybe decade 11s or something, and he gets in this decade, in the last 10 years, without a thought, easily. I'd like to, what I just come to my head now, I'd like to maybe not nominate a player, but special mention for me, someone I loved growing up was Zola as well.
Yeah.
Just, again, moments of just pure brilliance, absolute baller. That goal against Tottenham, the free kick, which literally was a postage stamp against Casey Keller.
There was, I think it was an FA Cup game against Norwich, near post corner. Do you remember that one?
No. You're talking about the back flick?
Yeah, the back flick.
Yeah. 3-0, they won that game. He was part of a pretty good Chelsea team with like Idiger Johnson, Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, a young John Terry, Marcel Desailly. They're kind of like the Spurs of today, where they're just good players, couldn't quite do it. But yeah, I loved Zola growing up.
Yeah,
just wanted
beautiful
to put that in there. Not even a Hall of Fame mention, but just a mention.
Yeah, just a mention as a brilliant footballer.
Yeah.
I have one more question for you, because I didn't mention this up front, but my cutoff was basically that they've stopped playing. So I've put that as a cutoff. So of current players, is there anyone in particular you think that, and it's a bit hard because like guys like Keane and Vieira have had a full career, whereas there are players who've just started or are halfway through. But what are some names for you that could potentially get into a Hall of Fame when they're done, if they keep at the same level?
For me, the name that stands out is, without a shadow of a doubt, Kevin De Bruyne. I think he's the best talent in the league. The league has seen for many, many years. In his position, obviously. You have the Mo Salahs and all that, and even Trent will probably get in there, and you can see Greenwood getting in there if he can keep this up. But these are young players. Kevin De Bruyne, though, I mean, Jesus Christ, for him to get rejected, come back, work his way through the German league, come back and become what is probably the best number 10, one of the best number 10s the league's ever seen. I think without a doubt, if he retired today, I think that's quite your question. If he retired today, if his career just stopped.
It's a bit of a mixture. Like if he retired today, or if he played at that same level and had the career.
It's
Like if De Bruyne,
undeniable.
I don't know how old De Bruyne is now, but I think he's 28. If he
27,
played this way for
27,
another,
28, yeah.
if he played at that level for 4 or 5 years and had the drop off that they all have, would that be enough to get him in? So it's kind of a two-edged question. Yeah.
Undeniable. I think he's. What about? I'll put that question to you, but for me, it's Kevin De Bruyne, without a doubt.
De Bruyne, absolutely. I think Trent's got the potential, but he's very young. It's still early days.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. Probably a couple of names that come to mind. I think Van Dijk's a bit of a media darling, but I think that he's got the capability to get there, because I think sometimes those nominations come from, the media forcing it through. I think the way that he's helped transform Liverpool, a bit almost like Cantona in terms of being that transformative signing for that club, but has not played in England for a particularly long time, as in probably not long enough to get in. He probably needs to keep going. I think Harry Kane, probably a little bit of a media darling as well, might be worth a shot. One guy I think doesn't get enough mentions, and this is probably my last one, Sergio Aguero, who happens to have the same goals to game record as Thierry Henry. Sergio Aguero scores 0.67 goals a game for Man City. Henry scored 0.69, Shearer's 0.46. So he gets the goal, Sergio Aguero, and he's been a really important part of that City team. Guardiola seemed to get Jesus in to replace him, but he fought his way back. He's played in multiple roles. I think he's a very underrated footballer. I don't think I don't think he's to use the NBA term, I don't think he's a first ballot Hall of Fame. But I think that in terms of his record as a footballer, I think is very underrated, and I think he's worth a mention.
And I have one more in my head. Just to end off, someone who's playing right now who could get in with another 1 or 2 years of consistency, Jamie Vardy.
Bruno? No, sorry?
Jamie Vardy.
Jamie Vardy, yeah. I think the way they improved himself.
Just looking here, 103 goals. And again, just because of his rise as well, from Southend United to Fleetwood United and all that, 103 goals in 211 games. It's about a 0.5.
I'll say this about Vardy though, because he's 34, so it's kind of what his record is now would have to be enough. Yeah. So maybe not a first ballot Hall of Famer, but I think the story, the fact he's English, the fact that he was such a big part of that improbable title charge from Leicester. He's won the Golden Boot again. He's the oldest guy to won the Golden Boot in EPL history. I think he's equal in sort of first division English football history, but in terms of EPL, absolutely. He's not a name that immediately comes to mind, but when you say it, it makes sense.
Are we done?
I think we're done. So I'll go through the names again, just so.
Yeah, just run through those names. Yeah.
So Schmeichel, Terry, Ferdinand, Company, Keane, Scholes, Vieira. No, I don't think we had Vieira. So number 7 was Gerrard.
No, not. Yeah, he was a special mention, but no, we took up Vieira.
Yeah, we took up Vieira. So 7 was Gerrard, Ronaldo, Giggs, Shearer, and Thierry Henry.
Would that win the Premier League today, Sham?
No fullbacks. Oh, actually, no, they play 3 at the back. 3 at the back with Keane and Vieira sitting in front of them. You wouldn't want to chat to them.
Yeah, that's a great video.
Yeah.
Are you happy with that?
Yeah, that actually wouldn't be the worst team. You'd have Gerrard attacking midfielder with Ronaldo and Giggs wide, Shearer and Henry up front. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
Happy with that, yeah.
Yeah, I'm very happy with that. So this is the 5-yard pass Hall of Fame nominees. Sham, do you want to take us out?
Yeah, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and keep passing.
Keep passing, guys.